So, the demo for the new Kodaka Nuchikoshi game is out. I made a video giving my thoughts and some concerns about the game last summer after it was announced. And now that I've played the demo, I'd like to briefly go over my thoughts and reflect on some of the points I made in that video to see how they hold up now. By the way, I streamed my live reaction to the demo here on YouTube, so if you're interested in my very first impressions of games, consider hopping in whenever I do those. But with all that out of the way, let's discuss the demo of the 100-line Last Defense Academy. So, let's start off by addressing what was arguably my biggest concern for this game: the gameplay. As I said, I personally prefer the puzzle and mystery-solving aspects of Danganronpa over the gameplay of most RPGs. And I was worried that this would drag down the game for me, because if I didn't enjoy the actual gameplay, that's obviously a big hindrance to my overall experience. But I am pleased to report that I was actually really impressed with the combat mechanic of this game. I have very little experience playing RPGs, but it was pretty easy to get the hang of once you play a few rounds. And while I'm definitely still learning, I really did enjoy the way that they designed it. I do worry a little bit about it getting grindy, but for what I've played so far, I had a lot more fun with it than I was expecting, especially for someone with not a ton of experience playing these kind of games. That said, another concern I had was that it was too derivative of Danganronpa, and I do still kind of stand by that, especially with some of the music tracks. I know it's the same composer as Danganronpa, but some of the similarities are just a little too much for me, especially when Raincode, which was also composed by Takada, didn't give me that impression nearly as much. Another similarity between this game and Danganronpa is the same character artist and designer. And unfortunately, my opinions of the designs haven't changed too much from last year. While I don't think they're, terrible, I don't like them nearly as much as the ones from Danganronpa or Raincode, which he also worked on. I know that's partly subjective, so I won't rag on it too long, I just wanted to bring it up. I know I just complained about the character designs, but I do need to praise the art in this game as well, because aside from those designs, it is a very pretty game. The sprites and CGs are really well done, and the animated cutscenes look really, really good. It makes the game feel so much grander, which for a more action-heavy game like this is very appreciated. With most of the presentation notes down, let's get into the story. Obviously, we'll need to play the whole game before I can say for certain what I think of the plot and characters, but I can give my thoughts on what we have so far. Obviously, the first day is the longest. We get a decently lengthy setup with the cutscenes, and it did take a while before I could actually start playing. Thankfully, that was the only long stretch that felt like that. Near the beginning, you are also presented with the option to decide your destiny. This is very Uchikoshi coded to me, and I assume that this is how we will get the various endings in the full game. The demo doesn't have any real branches in it though, so we'll have to wait for the full game to see how that mechanic plays out. After our first fight, the protagonist, Takumi, is whisked away to the Last Defense Academy, and we meet a little over half of the main roster. I was really surprised to see that we don't meet the whole cast right away, but I kinda like it. It gives us a chance to get to know a smaller group better before introducing more of them. As for what I think of the cast so far, it's a mixed bag. There's 2 characters that I would say I feel negatively about, and about 3 that I would say I'm actively enjoying. A handful of them just don't really do much in the demo, so I don't have very strong opinions on them. Here's my tier list, by the way. To briefly elaborate on just a few of them, I think Takumi is a perfectly serviceable protagonist so far. He's your typical nice everyman, but his dedication to Karuha is really sweet, and his kindness definitely endears me to him. Darumi is, to put it bluntly, a Danganronpa fan. It was a little grating at first when all she was doing was making killing game references, but as the demo went on, that became less frequent, and I actually found myself kinda enjoying her, as wild as she is. If there's one character that I genuinely do think is great so far, it's Eito. I'm mostly saying this because he's the one with the most clear arc over the course of the demo, going from stubbornly opposing Sarai and the concept of fighting, to deciding to join the others after they save his life, showing care and camaraderie for him that he seemingly has never felt before. I also just have a soft spot for well-meaning but somewhat awkward characters, but that's besides the point. So yeah, I'm pretty on board with the overall story so far. I think the mystery is interesting enough, and I'm definitely curious to see where it goes. The pacing was, alright. The opening and middle did drag a little, and I do worry that if we play through all 100 days, it could start to feel tedious, but that's something we're just gonna have to wait and see on. I do also miss the longer free time events of Danganronpa compared to the mini ones in this game, even though I do understand why it's this way given the game's 100-day format. And that's pretty much a summary of my thoughts so far. For being a collaboration, it does feel much more like a Kodaka game than an Uchikoshi game, but I think as the narrative branches, we'll see much more of the latter's influence. If you're into this kind of game, or have enjoyed either of these creators' past works, I really do recommend giving the demo a shot. I had a good time with it, and while I'm still personally undecided if I can spare the price of the full game yet, I'm definitely going to be following it, and I'd love to hear what other people think as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.